Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. So, a lot of people are up in arms about things that Nick Khan said in his interview with Ariel Helwani. I had recorded a video talking about the interview because I thought there were some interesting things that we can learn in that interview. But instead, I see people are literally ready to light Nick Khan on fire because of things that he said, none of which should be controversial to the average person. So let's do this instead. Let's do a Smart Tiers segment where we talk about Nick Khan. Now, I'm going to do this one a little bit more pointed than the ones before. Usually I go through and I just read random tweets. This time, I'm only going to look for people who are making specific points that can be refuted by exactly what he said. So let's start out the gate with King A Smark, Tony motherfucking Khan. Tony Khan, the owner, president, CEO, booker, writer of All Elite Wrestling. Here's what he had to say on Twitter. Professional wrestling is an art form. You don't create great artists by training them all to paint by numbers in the same way. How the fuck does he know? Who has he ever trained? What does he know about training wrestlers? What does his staff know about training wrestlers? Has he not watched his own show? He don't even need to look at the entire show. Just ask Britt Baker. How many AEW has been on TV for 2 years? How many major injuries has she had? She busted her face when she broke her nose. She had a major concussion. Did she break her foot or her ankle or something like that? She was in a boot in a wheelchair for a while. Now she's walking around in a cast. What do you know about training wrestlers? What do you really know? You don't know anything. And the second thing is, wrestlers are trained the exact same way. Have you never been in a gym? Quarterbacks are trained the exact same way. Running backs are trained the exact same way. Fullbacks, cornerbacks, when you have a position, you're an athlete. Have you ever seen people play sports? You can watch basketball and watch layup drills. Everybody who plays the same position do layup drills. Everybody's trained the same way. Then you put your own flair on it once you get the basics down. That's how training works. You get trained on how to do things, and then you put your own spin on it. But first, you have to know what you're doing. First, you have to learn the basics. If you're constantly going out there getting hurt, if you're hurt, you can't eat. That should have been the old way of doing things. That is what stopped people from doing dumb shit in the past. You know, this whole guaranteed money, guaranteed contracts and all that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff is what led to dudes just being like, fuck it, I get paid anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and get hurt. In the past, if you got hurt, man, you didn't eat. So it was in your best interest not to get hurt and never to work with somebody who hurt you. But, you know, he's a mark promoter who claims he knows about wrestling, but again, he's just trying to take a shot at Nick Khan, which is very interesting because Nick Khan said he has racehorse type of approach to the business, that he focuses on his lane. He doesn't concern himself with what everybody else is doing. So it makes perfect sense that Tony Khan, who again is just trying to curry favor with his bullshit audience, decides to go there. All right, some guy posted a picture of Goldberg versus Lesnar, or Goldberg versus Lashley rather, and says, Nick Khan, we live in the present and the future. We don't live in the past. But again, these people don't understand what these things mean or how business works. He does not live in the past. Goldberg wrestles twice a year. Twice. Sting has had more matches this year than Goldberg. Let that sink in. Christian has had more matches on TV than Goldberg. Chris Jericho has had more matches this month than Goldberg. Let that sink in. That's not just about AEW. You know, it's not just about, I'm just using them as an example. The purpose of using older talent is to bridge the young and the old audience. That's the point. Goldberg goes over The Fiend. Goldberg goes over Kevin Owens because you have to build his credibility. You build his credibility. People who are children when he was steamrolling the Giant in 1998 and he hasn't wrestled full time in over a decade, they don't know about Bill Goldberg. They can go on the network and look it up, sure. But we're talking about Bill Goldberg in current year. So we have to show that in current year, he is just as good as ever. So in doing so, what we do is we have him beat somebody because he has to win at some point. And then we have him take that equity that he just gained and give it to someone else. In one instance, it was Brock Lesnar. In another instance, it was Braun Strowman. It was supposed to be Roman, but it ended up being Braun Strowman after he beat The Fiend. And that's how you move the business forward. That's how the business moves forward. You probably should read the books of like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and how they talked about how hard it was when there was no one there to put them over. How pissy Bret was because Hogan didn't stay around to put him over like he promised he would. How Shawn and Bret were kind of pissed because they put, Vince put Savage at the announce table and Savage still wanted to wrestle. Savage could have put one of those guys over. He offered to put over Shawn Michaels and Vince said like, nah, you're too old. Sit down at the announce table. This is how wrestling works. These people are fucking stupid. I'm sorry. It's called passing the torch, right? And as long as people are holding the torch for you, you can pass the torch. You can pass it. You can make somebody else. You make other stars. But first, you have to be established. Terry Funk was 56 years old when he won the ECW World title. He beat Raven. But it wasn't about him. They made a story about him overcoming the odds and beating Raven. And then it was all about who's going to be the guy that's going to beat Terry Funk. The guy who's been the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. He's still doing it, even though he's middle-aged and crazy. Who's going to be the guy that's going to get that equity? That's what wrestling is about. These people seemingly think that there's some kind of expiration date. Now, if you physically can't go anymore, okay, I agree. But you're not going to tell me that Goldberg having 2 matches a year is living in the past when 99% of the roster is... I'm done. So here we go. Wrestling journalist John Alba decides to have a tweet storm. So we're going to read this tweet storm. Listening to the Nick Khan interview, it is extremely clear as to what the future of WWE will be from a talent standpoint. They want people who don't have much wrestling experience prior and to be able to mold them into the WWE style, imminent with WWE NXT rebrand. He didn't say that they shouldn't have any wrestling experience prior. He specifically said, we have a lot of indie talent. We don't need any more indie talents. We need more young recruits. We need to pull from a different pool. Pull, P-U-L-L, from a different pool, P-O-O-L, okay? I know I have a list, but I spell it out for you. That's what he said. He didn't say we're not hiring indie talents anymore. He never said that. That is what the dirt sheets said that he said. He never said that. He said we have an abundance of indie talent. Look at NXT TakeOver 36. Not one young WWE recruit was on that show. Every single person on that show was an indie talent, with the exception of Samoa Joe, who is technically, he was in WWE before, but you get my drift, right? Cross, fresh off the indies. Cameron Grimes was fresh off the indies. Do I need to go through every single person? There was nobody on that show that they built themselves. So how are they ever going to showcase their recruits if you keep signing indie talent? And then we also have to define what an indie talent is. Because you can work a really, really, really small independent, so small that it pretty much don't count. Or you could have been trained in a school in the middle of nowhere, and pretty much going to NXT is almost a complete retrain anyway. Those things are very different. And yes, they are going to take in other types of athletes and stuff like that too. We'll get into that in a moment. Let's continue with John Alba's statement. They want people to come into the company and know just one way to work, their way. He didn't say that either. Where did this come from? The positive is it will be a consistent and safe environment to learn. The negative, every match runs the risk of being exactly the same stylistically, monotonous. Speaking solely personally, my favorite thing about a lot of wrestling programs out there in the independent scene is that you get different flavors of ice cream. Very rarely are any two matches the same. When everything feels identical, again, just my opinion, but it's boring. Now let's make this clear. They're not looking to bring in scrubs. They want elite athletes, people who have extremely high ceilings. It will work for some. See Romans, Reigns, Batista, but how many will it hit on? Those gems are few and far between. All right, so hold on. He about to correct himself. That, of course, is not to say they won't sign independent talent. I'm sure they will. But the shift will be a dramatic in the type of athlete they bring in, for better or worse. I guess we'll see in 3 or 4 years. Let's back up to this particular statement right here. It will work for some. See Roman, Reigns, Batista, but how many will it hit on? How many does it need to hit on? That's my question. When people say, okay, you're gonna train 50 guys, only 3 of them are gonna make it, right? And people are gonna look at that and be like, oh my God, that's crazy. Like, why would you ever do that? It's like, have you never created anything? Have you never read a magazine? Step away from the wrestling bubble for a second. I will explain this to you. When I was a kid, I used to read like The Source and Double XL magazine. I was a really big fan of hip hop. I still have some of those magazines in a closet somewhere. And I used to like always trip out when I used to see guys like Busta Rhymes or, somebody like that. They'd be like, yeah, I wrote 170 songs for this album. And you look at the album, it's like 19 tracks on it. You're like, you wrote 200 songs? You have 200 beats? How much effort and time did you put into this? And you only got 19 tracks? And it's like, yeah, you produce a lot. You can mass produce anything. But the things of quality are very few in between. That's how the business works. That's how all businesses work. Anybody who has ever created anything would know that. God, man, are you serious? This is ridiculous. When you go to McDonald's, right? McDonald's has an incredible menu of items. If you ask somebody in McDonald's or something like that, what's the number one seller? They'll probably say, probably back in the day, they probably would have said the Big Mac. I think in recent years, it'd probably be the dollar menu, right? Stuff off the dollar menu. So why would you make anything else except things that go on the dollar menu if that's the stuff that sells more? Because people might want something that's not on the dollar menu. But then there's going to be items that people almost never order. Like people almost never order, I would say chicken nuggets, but I think kids probably stuff like that order chicken nuggets. But the dollar menu and the Big Macs and the big items, the things that really sell, they subsidize the things that don't really sell. That's how it works. Every industry is pushed by a minute number of elites. People, that's the natural hierarchy of things. The NFL, you can only have a certain number of players on the entire team. And only a certain number of those players are actually going to be any real good. It's like, sure, you might have 4 fucking quarterbacks. Only one of them is actually any good. The other 3 are backups for a reason. They might be high-level backups. They might be pretty good. They're good enough to make the team, but they're not good enough to start. When somebody says to you, oh, look at the failure rate. You like everything that is worth doing has a very high failure rate. Prince, to use another music example, Prince used to make hundreds of songs. He used to print albums. Like he would sign a record contract and say, a 5-record contract. And then he'd bring like 200 songs to the record company and be like, boom, pick however many songs you want for each album. It's already done. you know. And they could, of course, reject it because they're paying him for this stuff. They can say, we want fresh material, not stuff that sounds dated, not stuff that sounds old or whatever. But generally, that's how it works. When you start training people, you're going to train them the exact same way. Some are going to pick it up, some aren't. The people who aren't going to get it, you're going to cut them. The people who get it, but they hit a ceiling, you're going to do something else with them. You're going to change the gimmick, change their position. You may even have to cut them later in the process. Like somebody may get through tryouts. They get a developmental contract. They hit a wall somewhere in developmental. They can't get over it. You cut them. But other people are going to get through that. They're going to do the work. They're going to get through. They may even make it on NXT TV. They may botch and screw it up on NXT TV so much you're like, okay, we can't do anything with them. Send them home. If they make it through that, they get on Raw or SmackDown. And then guess what? Maybe they get more time on Raw or SmackDown. And maybe they get a pay-per-view spot. And then maybe they make it to, the main event of WrestleMania. But it ain't meant to be for everybody. That's the hard part. What Nick Khan said is he wants it to make it easier for people who want to be WWE superstars to become WWE superstars. That's why they did the tryouts in Las Vegas. They're not forcing people to come to Orlando anymore. They're coming to them. They're meeting you halfway, right? Because they know independent wrestlers will pack up their shit and go to Orlando to do the tryout, and then that's how they keep getting independent talent, because these people are already trained. They already know what they're doing. At the same time, though, not only do they come with a lot of experience, they come with a high price tag, but they also come with injuries. So some of these people may come into NXT, they've been on the business 10 years, have broken their ankle 40 times. Now you have to be like, okay, this guy's got bolts in his legs. He's 36. What are we supposed to do with this? He's older than Roman at this point. So what are we going to do with this guy? Sign him to a developmental contract? Wasn't they mocking people for that, though? They mocked that you signed somebody who's a little bit older to a developmental contract. Like, it was sign him to a developmental contract. He's been in the business 15 years. And now they're mad that WWE is like, this guy's been in the business 15 years. If we ain't signed him by now, then, let's focus on this young basketball player who wants to do this. He's willing to go out there and put in the work. If he's not any good, we cut him. Period. Let's give him a chance. That's all they're really saying is we're going to give these people a chance. And the wrestling journalists and all of these elitists have lost their goddamn minds. No, you're not allowed to do that. Well, guess what? That's what wrestling is. Almost every single wrestler that you can think of off the top of your head came from somewhere else. With the very rare Kurt Angle, the very rare Cody, the very rare Dolph Ziggler, who are high school wrestlers or whatever. Some people who have did mixed martial arts or something like that. Most of your favorite wrestlers, Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen, football players. This kind of thing is poisonous because people are fucking stupid. Vader was a football player. Ernie Ladd was a football player. You're going to say, well, nah, man, you was a football player, man. You ain't no wrestler. What? Man, see, that's these people are stupid. Let's move on. All right, so this guy, I have no idea who this is. Nick Khan comparing WWE's new recruitment philosophy, it's not new, to sports is insane. It's not like college players moving up to the NFL. That's not what he said. It's more like if the NFL teams recruited college basketball players in the draft thinking, well, just train them to play football. Guess what? Sometimes people do switch sports. You ever heard of Bo Jackson? People do switch sports. People switch sports all the time. If you're athletic, people consider you and you're coachable. Even if you haven't been, you don't need to do something your entire life. You don't have to be locked into a box your entire life. You can do other things. Right? Wasn't Kenny Omega an actor? And all these people blow him all the time. Like, he's a fucking actor. Come on, man. This is ridiculous. Let's see. Nick Khan. Raw would benefit from being 4 hours because WWE would get more money. SmackDown could be 8 hours. I think this, for starters, this is a joke. Secondly, he's talking about advertising money. And I saw somebody, I must have just passed it up, who, let's see if I can find that tweet. My God, because this was a pretty good one. It says, it's really funny that Vince, Nick Khan, and Triple H just outright say this stuff. But if you say WWE is just a content factory that produces dozens of hours of unwatchable slop to get fat checks of cable companies, Seth Avis will act like you've done a war crime. I don't know who Seth Avis is. But if you don't make money, then there is no show. Like how I'm legit stupefied by that concept. If you don't make money, there is no show. If there is no show, what are you going to pay talent? What are they going to come to the? I don't understand this. If you don't like it, that's fine. But WWE is routinely the number one show on TV, and AEW does a pretty good job too of being number one on cable during their time slot. If you personally don't like it, that's irrelevant to the point. You're arguing with something that is not just a success, but a long-term 30-year success. Like, you imagine being that, having your head up your ass that far, that you're staring in the face a juggernaut that has existed for 30 years, been number one on cable so often they don't even talk about it anymore. I mean, it's not a, like, you know, when AEW is number one, they have to continue to tweet about it every, you know. It's like Raw expects to be number one or number two in cable. It's not, you know, sometimes it's football, sometimes there's other things, you know, the Real Housewives of such and such or something like that. They don't even tout the success of their TV anymore. Not really. They mentioned it in the investor call because they have to. You're staring, you know, they had 50,000 people in the building for SummerSlam. If the buildings were half empty and the ratings were in the toilet, then you could say something like, "Oh, what they're doing is not working." But you arguing with success. You're arguing with success. You can say you don't like it. You can say that, but you can't say it's unwatchable crap because a lot of people are watching it, dog. A lot of people, and most of the people who are complaining are also watching it. You know, there's people who have made their entire career off of, you know, complaining about Raw and SmackDown and claiming they don't watch it. It's ridiculous. All right, so we got this kidney guy again. At the end of the day, Nick Khan is never going to have the conversation that Vince is creative is why the company can't create new stars, so they'll just endlessly find something else to blame. They can't create new stars. I keep hearing that. I think I did this video before, didn't I? What does that mean? What does it mean that you can't create new stars? If these people are a broken record. You know, it's an absolute broken record. Do you need to, what is a star? Somebody let me know in the comment section below. Let me know what a star is. You know, because they have a lot of top guys who do a lot of top guy shit and they get asked to do things and they're showing out. You got Bianca Belair taking pictures with like Megan Thee Stallion and hanging out with all types of other celebrities, being asked to do all type of big events and stuff like that. And they keep saying, they ain't making no new stars. The building erupts when Becky Lynch comes out. They ain't not making no new stars. It's like, I don't know, man. This is ridiculous. We're over the hill. we're over the hill at this point. I'm at a loss for words. Everybody who is tripping over this, he wants Raw to be longer. This goes to show that there's a lot of people out there, especially people who have YouTube channels, and they don't read these comments for themselves. They don't get source material. They just read what other people tweet or say, and then they say things for the likes. Like that can never be me. I'm not outsourcing my thinking to someone else. I just can't do that. There's also people cherry picking tweet comments also. So you have to pay attention to that too. Let's find another one. Let's see. This Nick Khan interview is very interesting stuff. I agree. You can tell he's the perfect leader to take WWE forward. He brings ruthlessness that the old presidents didn't have and is genuinely going to do everything he can to make the company even bigger. Yes. Yes, he is. I love some of his ideas. I don't like all of them, but I love some of his ideas. One of the ideas that I do love is he started talking about localized content. And we've been talking about, if you're new to this channel, we've been talking about the expansion of NXT. Like, they've been talking about NXT Japan and NXT Mexico forever. And then they started doing all these cuts. So I thought the expansion idea was dead. But in this interview, Nick Khan did mention the success of the Superstar Spectacle, which featured all of their homegrown Indian talent. And he says, like, that was proof of concept that people want localized products. And considering that was kind of Triple H's idea anyways, to have a performance center essentially in every continent, every major country, I think they may end up still doing it. And you know what? I'm not mad at it. Bring in as many people as you can. If you can afford it, go for it. It might be hell to catch on in Japan or Mexico because they have like their real wrestling hotbeds. But there's some other places where it might work. We never know. But he does seem to have a more business focus than a lot of people. And of course, these corporate individuals, these corporate mouthpieces, they rub people in the wrong way all the time anyway, which is not a surprise. But people taking him out of context, people not, fully understanding what he's saying, people being disingenuous. It's pathetic. All right, so let's talk about this. So David Bixenspan, he says, Nick Khan's answer to Helwani about the massive amount of unnecessary releases, that's not news, by the way. That is conjecture. Who is to say what's necessary? You don't run a company. Who the fuck do you know what's necessary? Anyway, the massive amount of unnecessary releases gets deranged by the end. When people leave and they move on with their life and career, that's good by us. They didn't leave. You laid them off amidst record profits during a global pandemic. They're also talking about people who quit. About all the releases, not everybody who was released was fired. Some of the people quit. Andrade quit, for instance, right? Didn't Miro quit too? Several, FTR wanted to be out of their contracts. There are other, and we don't know how many people in silence wanted to leave. Like, we don't know. Some people were fired for sure. Other people wanted out. But that wasn't also the full context of what he said. He said that, the current roster is essentially with their vision of the product, that either these people are going to move the product forward, the needle forward imminently, meaning within the near future, or now or in the future. So if you're going to move the needle now or in the future, they kept you around. But if you're not really moving the needle, you're kind of in a rut, there's no reason for them to keep you. It's a pretty, it's pretty tough, but it's honest. At least they're being honest. So Bixenspan, of course, is, got his, I'm not going to say that. But what made it even worse is that Mickie James responds. So Mickie James responds, oh, really? This is him? This is the guy? Wow, interesting. Well, I think we all much better. I think we feel all much better now. Also, hey, buddy, The Sopranos called They Want Big Pussy Back. Does that move your needle? No. Okay, cool. What is wrong with these people? That was deranged, Mickey. That's deranged. What the fuck? You say you like Big Pussy from The Sopranos? He's Iranian. wasn't that guy Italian? I'm sure you all do feel better now. Why is he so many people bitter? Get the fuck over it. I don't even think about jobs that fired me or jobs that I quit. I don't even think about it anymore. Who cares? You have a new executive position. What is it about these women? And it's like 3 of them now. It's Mickey, Maria, and Gail, right? They all moved on and have executive positions in 3 different wrestling promotions. And yet they're like the Wicked Witch of Ring of Honor, the Wicked Witch of NWA, and the Wicked Witch of Impact. It's like they just can't get over it. Like, what the fuck? Stop acting heartbroken and being weird. Ugh, this is so strange. On top of just being plain cringy. Mickey, stop it. Ugh. Alright, so this one is fun. You have Tony Khan, who actually wants to do positive things for the pro wrestling business. And then you have Nick Khan and Vince McMahon, who basically want to bring WWE back to the late 80s and early 90s with roided up douchebag numbskulls. Take your pick. Well, if you're gonna put a gun to my head, buddy, I'll take the Ultimate Warrior. Who else? Rick Martel was there. Kurt Hennig was there. Who else was there? I mean, Kurt Hennig was fucking Andre the Giant in comparison to Johnny Gargano. You're not threatening me with you can't threaten me with a good time, baby. I grew up on 1990s WWF. See, people say things and, oh yeah, you should probably check that how much, the views for Andre and Hogan in the late 80s and the early 90s. Boy. All right, so this one is neat. 3 thumbs down emojis. Fuck you. Hashtag Twitter. Lurker. Hashtag Nick Khan. And anyone revolting against at Triple H's vision, way of running, handling, hashtag NXT. It's only been fine the last 7 years. Thumbs up, mean face. No, that's a middle finger. Middle finger, mean face. Middle finger, mean face. Middle finger, mean face. Jesus Christ. This is in response to the concept of WWE changing the way NXT looks. That's the only thing he said. He's going to change the way NXT looks, and he's going to change the recruitment. They can start recruiting more young people. And he's going to start doing that by holding tryouts and, I guess in localized areas that make it easier for people to get there and to do the tryouts. Because they did tryouts in Las Vegas for a reason. Because they were going to be in town. So we're going to do tryouts when we're in town. What is the problem? If you're an independent wrestler, just go to tryouts. I saw a couple of people they signed 12 people over the SummerSlam weekend. 2 of whom were independent wrestlers. One of them was a Booker T student. Like, jeez, man. Fuck. Oh, this one is great. Fuck you, Nick Khan, you fucking dork. The product from at WWE has been a joke over the past many years. And of course, you gotta touch the second best WWE show and kill it. I love all wrestling and never thought WWE would go on such a decline. Bro, they haven't even done anything yet. The only thing they really said they were going to do is change the logo and turn on the fucking lights. That's all they really said they were going to do. It's too dark in here. There's too many old motherfuckers. And turn on the fucking lights. That's it. That's it. We don't know what they're doing yet. We can't even get to the point where we see what they're doing yet. It's one thing if they have done something and it was a shock to everybody's system and everybody was like, whoa, what was that? I don't like this. It's another thing for them to be like, oh yeah, we're going to change NXT up a little bit. We're going to turn the lights on, reconstruct the building and everything. They stopped their relationship with Full Sail and everything. And everybody's like, no, you're ruining NXT. You're like, really? The show that y'all chose not to watch that gets the lowest ratings of any WWE product? I don't know what to tell you. And they're all trying to make it better, more presentable for TV. That's all they're trying to do is make it more presentable for TV. All right, man, that's enough of this. Jesus Christ. These people are insane. These people are insane, bro. Like, you should be able to change things, okay? You should be able to move things around without people losing their minds. All right, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, donate to the channel. Nick Khan did nothing wrong, and I'll talk to you guys later.